So we have about 4 or 5 questions that we're going to ask and they can argue over who goes first on some of these. But the plan is to talk about their journey through the shelter box, through knowing all about In Polio and the Prior Lakes Lakefront Music Festival. So the first question, and I'll start with Renee on this one. Starting in the present day, can you tell us a little bit about your organization and the significant reach it has had?
Well, first of all, good afternoon, everyone. And let me start by saying that Shelter Box cannot do what we do without Rotarians. First and foremost, our international president, Sanj, would tell you that. But Shelter Box is a humanitarian organization that serves globally. We've responded to disasters here locally in the United States, as well as internationally. And that's what we do, is we respond with shelter and items to help provide shelter to people who have experienced disaster, whether that be man-made disaster, conflict and violence, or natural disasters, flooding, hurricanes, landslides, you name it. So we go in with very skilled individuals, we do assessments, and then we see how it is that we can respond. You'll see the big tent out there. That is one of the items that we can provide, as well as other things that go along with it. Oh, and our reach, we've helped over 3 million people in the last 25 years. We have served in over 300 disasters in over 150 countries, and that's only in 25 years.
Thank you, Renee. Kyle.
Well, ours is a little different because it's a fundraiser. But Prior Lake Rotary's Lakefront Music Fest has been around for 16 years now and has grown substantially over time to the point that we are having a 2-night music festival that between 35 and 40,000 people attend, and we raise between $750 and $1 million for our club and our club's activities, which has allowed us to do really great things in the community and around the world. Last year, our total charitable giving was about $463,000, and then that doesn't include the $1 million signature project that we put forth in our community and named the recipient have started to fund their signature project now as well, which is the project that won was a dog rescue facility along with community room, but they're now building that, which is a need in our area. And it's transformed the club as well from a good club to a great club that's active both locally and internationally and does a lot of good for a lot of people. In fact, that 463,000, we calculated that the impact was about 550,000 people over the course of that year. So yeah, it's a good fundraiser.
Awesome. Thank you, Kyle. Laura.
Yes. Hello. Welcome, everyone. Polio eradication is Rotary's only corporate project. And that right there says everything that you need to know about Rotary and polio eradication. Over the years, we have put together more than $2.9 billion worth of funding for polio eradication, over $2.9 billion worth of donations. And that is worth a round of applause. Yes, absolutely. There are now just 7 cases worldwide right now of wild polio. Those are one is in Afghanistan and 6 are in Pakistan. And besides that, there are no other wild polio cases in the world. There are some circulating variant polio cases, a handful of those, about 10 at this point. But the wild polio cases are down to just 7 right now. That number will grow, but hopefully it will not increase much beyond that. So thank you.
Thank you. So Laura, I'm going to continue with you a little bit. And that's, well, each of your guys' initiatives were quite different, they also started somewhat in a similar fashion. So can you share just a little bit of how polio came to be and why it is as famous and as it is? Because I will tell you, the younger generation than me, you all probably got the polio vaccination, and you don't hear about it. When people say Rotary, they don't always think about that it's known for polio on the street. So that's something obviously that we have to advocate for and keep as part of a history. So kind of curious on that part.
Sure. So think back to April of 1979. April of 1979. Many of you I know were not born at that time. Clem Renault was Rotary International's president. Clem Renault. He was on a flight back from the Philippines, and he realized that he needed some more information. He'd just been to Manila to formalize agreements to launch the first project under what was then called Rotary Foundation's Health, Hunger, and Humanity Grant Program. Health, Hunger, and Humanity Grant Program. It was known at that time as 3H. The 3H program was in its infancy. It was the first time Rotary had committed to new projects beyond the capacity of a single club or a district. The first time that Rotary had done that. There were nothing like the global grants that we all know today. The project that Clem had helped launch was focused on bringing the polio vaccine to the kids in the Philippines. Just that simple, nothing more complex than that. It was a grand Rotary experiment, and one that would obviously have far greater implications than what any of us could have imagined at that time. So Clem decided he needed more information. He called a former district governor in the Washington, D.C. area. The man he called was John Seaver. John Seaver. He was head of the infectious disease branch at the National Institutes of Health. So he called just the right person. John Seaver was a very knowledgeable man. He was the son of a physician who had treated polio children when he was growing up. John had trained at Northwestern University as a pediatrician and earned a PhD in microbiology. At the NIH, he worked as a scientist who also saw patients, as a vaccine expert who understood social outreach, and as a medical administrator who knew the politics of public health. He was also friends, John was, with Jonas Salk and Albert Sabin, the founders of the polio vaccine. So John consulted with Albert Sabin. A few weeks later, he mailed Clem a short letter with this recommendation. If a single vaccine were to be selected for the 3H program, I would recommend poliomyelitis. Boom. There it was. Rotary's only corporate project had just been launched. And it was just that simple of a story. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Laura. Renee, so asking the same question, how did it start in that similar fashion? Share a little bit of history. You kind of gave a big high level, but what was the start of it?
Okay, so we don't go quite as far back as 1979, but who remembers the song Party Like It's 1999? Right? Okay. So Shelter Box started as a Rotary project in a club in Helston Lizard, UK, so the United Kingdom. And the club members saw a gap in response to disasters. So their desire was to build boxes that could help at least 8 to 10 families during a disaster, to provide shelter and dignity, to give them a home during the worst part of their life. 8 to 10 boxes. So in 2000, Shelter Box was formed because of that small club project that became very big, very fast. And that's part of the next question that will come up. And so I'll save the rest for later.
Thank you. Okay, Kyle, give us a short, brief history lesson of
Sure.
16 years ago
Yeah.
of why your club would think of Music Fest would go well.
Well, it was more like 19 years ago, and we were doing a club visioning event, which hopefully a lot of you have heard about as a tool that you can utilize to set a course in your clubs. And one of the questions has to deal with fundraisers, and a couple of the guys in our club who are their neighbors, and we used to have like one meeting a year where we'd all go out in pontoons in the middle of the lake and say the four-way test, make some announcements, and then everybody would just go off. And they were cruising around back home, and they were talking about their collective love for music and how they both wanted to do some sort of concert. And so at that visioning event, not long later, that got put up as one of the fundraising ideas. And we were a fairly successful fundraising club, but everybody was intrigued by a music fest that could raise $100,000. And that, lo and behold, became one of the ideas that got the most traction. So the board said, "You guys can run with it," and we took it to the club. Then I was helping them because I was president nominee at the time. And so our president-elect said, "Hey, this is going to happen during your year. You run with it." Thanks, Sandy. And we presented it to the club, buy-in, back to the board, more buy-in, and away we went. But really, it came because two guys after a Rotary meeting out on the lake were driving home on the pontoon and going, "We should hold a concert." And Rotary was the incubator that allowed that to happen.
Awesome. So definitely you started a small thing that's now huge. So that goes to the point, Kyle, I'll let you continue with. The growth is not linear. So how did that growth happen over time? What kind of hurdles maybe you had come into, the scale of it, and getting that buy-in, etc.
Well, I think, like anything, it comes with a plan. And we were trying to figure out what we were doing because, like all of you in this room, we all have different professions that isn't concert promoter. And in fact, right off the bat, before we held the first event, it was supposed to be in July of 2009. And we realized in the fall of 2008 or so that we weren't going to be ready. And so we pushed it back a year until 2010 because we wanted to do it as close to, well, we didn't want to screw up too bad. Still, that first year, though, we had, and I told this at the breakout session yesterday, we had 8,000 people, had Johnny Lang as our headliner, sold $115,000 worth of beer, lost $25,000. Charge admission if you do events. Free concerts don't make a ton of money. But we adapted, and the next year we charged $5. Had 2/3 of the crowd, but were able to make $25,000. And then we really took a introspective look at what we were doing and said, okay, what are we doing well? What needs to be improved? And if we're going to continue to do this, what needs to change? And we came up with a list of 3 or 4 main things, presented that to the club to take a vote. Do we want to continue with this? And overwhelming, the club said, yes, we do. And so we kept going, but we made those changes along the way. So it wasn't just, let's keep doing it the way we wanted to do it. And since then, it's done this. Like one year we had a headliner get appendicitis the night before they were supposed to go on stage. And that was the year after COVID. So every band within 18 hours was busy the next night. We checked. So you have those hurdles, but with planning and looking forward, you're able to get past those, and you're not going to have all sunshiny days. But it was it's been a heck of a journey, and we've learned how to do things by making decisions as a collective. Because 4 people or 8 people in a room thinking about things and making the best decision overall, and not just one person making the decision, you're going to come up with the right answer, even if you're not professionals on it.
Awesome. Thank you. Renee, going to you, how did the growth happen over time, and what are the things that have had to change or the learning curves that you guys have gone through over the years?
So when Shelterbox started, the premise was to do something is better than doing nothing because everybody can do something, right? And remember, it was 8 to 10 boxes a year. Well, by 2001, 143 boxes had already been deployed. So it scaled up faster than what they had thought. Shelterbox became a nonprofit in the year 2000, and in 2004, the United States affiliate started, and we became a nonprofit. So our first start began in Lakewood, Florida, and we are now located in Santa Barbara. So it's no longer the United Kingdom, simply the United Kingdom. That's our international affiliate, and then it's the United States affiliate. We have a Canada affiliate, and then there are other affiliates out there. We have a large contingency of volunteers that go into the countries and work directly with the Rotarians on the ground to determine whether or not the disaster that we're responding to is something that Shelterbox can handle. So now we have over 250 SRTs, Shelter Box Response Teams, that go into a disaster and see how it is that we can respond. Unlike what Kyle was saying, there wasn't necessarily a direct plan on how we were going to grow. We realized we had to grow because the amount of disasters that we're facing across the world are increasing dramatically. Our initial goal as Shelterbox was to help over 1 million people by 2025. And remember the number I gave you? We've already helped 3 million people. There are over 140 million people displaced right now, and that number is supposed to double within the next 5 years. The natural disasters that we are experiencing across the globe continue to increase, as well as conflict and violence. So our growth was more happenstance because of Rotarians across the globe wanting to be a part of a small club project that has now become the largest shelter provider in the world, and we are a project partner with Rotary International. I'll leave it there.
Okay, thanks, Renee. So Laura, kind of to your point on polio.
Polio eradication so far has eradicated 99.9% of all polio cases in the world. We're down to 2 endemic countries, Pakistan and Afghanistan only. But there were some challenges along the way, to say the least. Starting with how do we get a partnership with the World Health Organization, WHO? I work for them a couple days a week, and looking back now, I realize what a humongous accomplishment that was to actually build that kind of partnership, because WHO thought at the beginning that Rotary had neither the funding nor the operation put together well enough that they could actually pull something like polio eradication off. And WHO knew at that time that this was going to take a very long time, as indeed it has. So that was one of the first and very early challenges, was building that relationship with WHO. There were other challenges, building relationships with UNICEF, with CDC, but those paled in comparison to the one that was needed to be done with WHO. There were also challenges, of course, country by country, and that really varied from one country to another on how big those challenges were. In some countries, they could manage the eradication of polio fairly quickly, and many countries did, but other countries really, really struggled with that, including places like India and Nigeria, which have come off the endemic country list only in the last few years. So that has really changed tremendously.
Okay. So we're going to keep going with you, Laura, because I think this kind of tags on to the continuation of what you were going to talk about. So each of these started as an idea, and they've all grown significantly, and not just in scale, but looking at how has it really affected the people. So just talking, what is the overall impact that these ideas have generated over the time?
This idea has managed to eradicate 99.9% of all of the world's polio wild cases, and I don't think there's more to be said than that.
Yeah. So you'll notice anybody that attended my breakout yesterday, I repeated the same thing multiple times because we all learned that you need to hear it multiple times to remember it, right? So you'll get that theme here shortly. Kyle, what about you?
I think the overall impact, certainly, our event has raised several $1 million that we've put back into doing good throughout the world, but it's also helped make our Rotarians better. When we started this event in the 2009-10 Rotary year, we had about 60 members. About half of them gave to the Rotary Foundation because that's a good measuring stick on how engaged somebody is, at least from a statistical standpoint. And our per capita average giving to the foundation was about $150 per member. Decent, nothing spectacular by any means, middle of the road. And our charitable giving budget that year was $40,000. This year we have about 100 members. We have 30 Paul Harris Society members. 30% of our club gives $1,000 a year to the Rotary Foundation. Our per capita, and this is before adding in the 5% of net proceeds from the Music Fest that we send to the annual fund of the Rotary Foundation, but our per capita giving members averages between $600 and $800 per year. We've had several years that we've had 100% giving from our club members, and our charitable giving budget this year is about $230,000. We have several international projects going. We have anywhere from 10 to 12 people per year that travel to international project sites to make those relationships better and to do more. And our club members are committed and they're proud to be Rotarians. And they tell their friends and they bring those people in. And I think they stay longer and they are more energetic. And because we work so hard at different times, we all like each other a little bit more. Rob, you probably don't like me. I mean, I know my mom, who is the president-elect, doesn't like me, but that's just her. That's a family thing. But it's helped transform the club, and in turn, then we've been able to help fill a lot of needs in our community and transform the lives of people throughout the world. Again, that impact last year of over 500,000 lives impacted as a direct result of a bunch of morons running a music festival, that keeps us coming back. And that impact on all of us is as great as anything.
Cool. Renee, what about the impact that Shelterbox has done over the years and from those ideas?
So again, largest club project, it has resulted in being the largest project partner of Rotary and impacting lives all over the globe. 3 million lives, 300 disasters in over 150 countries. It's also enabled us, because of the work that we've done and what we're learning from those disasters, is we now have 5 pre-positioned aid stations in key areas of the world so that when a disaster happens, we can respond quickly and efficiently. We try to make sure that those pre-positioned aid centers have between 3,000 to 5,000 packages of aid for families as soon as that disaster happens. We've also been able to, again, scale up our volunteer base, our SRTs, and our relationships across the globe. Our staff now in the UK is roughly 50. We have 23 here in the United States. There are 5 in the affiliate in Canada. So the growing number of people coming involved with the organization to impact these lives is growing, as well as the capacity. And we've also learned that it's not a one-size-fits-all approach to disaster. It is going in, doing the assessments, and seeing what the needs are. So it may be responding with tents, it may be responding with solar lights, it may be responding with water filtration systems. It's all designed to build connection with the family and stability for the family so that they can get back on their feet and start again.
Awesome. Thank you. So all of us here today are future club leaders. And these three significant panelists have brought great examples that are very powerful and probably seem a little overwhelming, right? Of how do you change that? How do you tackle that? I know this morning in our general session, we had Tom Gump talking about, change is hard, but to do it, because things are going to go great for you when you do make that, and people will follow you. But regardless of whatever that idea is, you can still dream big. So that being said, what advice, Laura, we'll start with you, would you give to an incoming president to break that status quo and get their members to start dreaming bigger?
Dream big yourself. Start there. Decide what it is you want your legacy as during your president year to be. And ponder that, think about that. Try to decide what impact you're going to have on your club so that you can make a difference in your club and its future. And know that whatever it is that you do as a club president during your year, that you have a chance to actually come up with something that could be the start of something very, very big. It may or may not turn out to be the case, but it could very well be the case. And who knows what the next big Rotary project just might be.
Awesome. Thank you. Kyle.
Yeah, I think you have the permission to dream big and to do things differently. Look at what's working in your clubs. Look at what may not be working. Don't be afraid to ask questions like, are we doing this just to do this? Or are we really making a difference with this? And challenge your club members to dream as well. I like to call it, rather than brainstorming, calling it daydreaming. Like when I drive down the road, I'm constantly thinking about, so what could we do as a club, or how can we make this work, or whatever like that. The people that are on the receiving end of my phone calls don't always like that when it's all goofy ideas. But it's okay to do things differently. I'll say that again, because it's okay to do things differently. If you keep doing what you always done, you're going to get the same results. And it doesn't mean that you have to have it done by June 30th, 2026 as well. It's about putting plans in place of where you want to be out in the future and building a team around you, so you're not just doing it by yourself, but that you have a whole structure within your club with the presidents that follow you, with your boards, with key leaders within the club, that you can say, all right, we are going to dream big. This is something we can do that's going to create an impact in our community. It's going to be better for our members. It's going to be better for, a location somewhere else in the world. Now let's go to it. And it's not a 1-year project, but something that 3-4 years from now, you can go, I was part of that. And you may not get the public credit for it, but internally, you're going to feel really good about the fact that I helped get that off the ground. And the more you can look at that bigger side of things and going, how can we make things better? And never be comfortable with the status quo, which brings complacency, to reject that and to help your club start thinking that way as well. Good things will happen.
Great. Renee.
Be limitless, be audacious, be innovative, and allow that idea to grow. Build your partnerships, create the vision, and collaborate with others, because anything's possible. It only takes a drop of water to fill a bucket. In the words of my friend that I met earlier today at the polio booth, when you're climbing the Himalayas, or was I think the Kilimanjaro, it's one step at a time, right? So allow those ideas to bloom and grow. And it only takes one spark to light a fire. There's lots of metaphors out there. We can all do it.
Awesome. Yeah. And, I'll add in there, don't be afraid to fail, right?
Yep.
Because fail means what? First attempt at learning. You guys as leaders should know that. It's okay to fail. You're going to have your teams around you to help pick you up and do that dream big along with you and everything. So awesome. Well, thank you guys for coming up and participating. So let's give them a round of applause. So we're actually going to save our question and answer side of things until tomorrow. We'll actually have a breakout session on Saturday morning in here as part of our agenda that we will have more of a question and answer. You guys can get more intimate, asking them questions on stuff like that. So to keep things moving, because I know everybody likes to keep on schedule and stuff, I'm going to have Ken Crabb come up here, and he's going to have some closing comments and dismiss us to head out to our next adventure.